And what I searched for was what animation had never done. I kept believing that I was bored, you see, I was bored to tears of what the guys were fighting to save. I didn't think what they were fighting to save was worth anything. I was sick and tired of Bugs Bunny at that point, though it's great. I was sick and tired of the cartoons they were making. I didn't find what they were trying to save any reason to save. You know, but it was done over and over and over and over again, and it was tiring and boring and nothing new, like I said. So I immediately thought that anything different would get people excited, you know.
This is Ralph Bakshi, speaking at a Comic-Con event way back in 2008. Speaking some harsh truths about the animation industry, and these kind of truths have got me into trouble more than a few times over the years. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, Ralph Bakshi is a long-time cartoonist, artist, animator, filmmaker, and honestly a very important person of interest in the legacy of animation, for him using the medium of animation in a much more serious and critically controversial way than arguably anyone else before him at this time in history, or at the time in history, back in the day. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to #CIAD, also known as Celebrate International Animation Day 2017. Right here on Planet Tyro, we're continuing our celebration. And finally, I want to do a series of videos, a mini retrospective, if you will, on Ralph Bakshi. But before I do that, I want to talk about my personal experiences with him and his works in this introduction video, and how we're actually going to tackle this particular task. Because again, we're going to be talking about his entire filmography in individual videos moving forward. Now, at the time of this very recording, it is mid-September 2017, and I've already seen almost all of Ralph Bakshi's animated releases, but that was when I was much younger and less critical and even less objective. Just like with the Lupin the Third retrospective we've done and the Woody Allen retrospective we've done, I want to take a deeper dive and have a fresh look at Bakshi's work right here in 2017 and see how I feel about it nowadays, or in this recent landscape of animation all these years later. Because a lot of things have changed and a lot of things have stayed pretty much the same. Now, I do have to give this disclaimer, sadly, due to the realities of real life with work and time constraints, I personally can't do the in-depth analysis and research I would have done in each of these videos I'm going to be following up with. And honestly, I found a lot of other sources, articles and videos and write-ups that are more akin to what I was going to do, but personally, I just can't do it at this point in time. But I did want to do something with Ralph Bakshi, even if it's not up to what I actually want to do. And you know, something's better than nothing. And I've put this one off for long enough, and I just got to get this off my chest. Now again, here at Planet Tyro, we like to do stuff for, you know, the newbies, the people that don't know, haven't heard of these people, all these discussions when we have them. So for all you newbies to Ralph Bakshi who do not know who he is, let me start by saying, I think if you really want a good, quick Bakshi primer, something that will just get you caught up in a very general sense of who he is and what he's done, check out this primer video that I think Media did on him. It's a really nice overview of everything he's done, why he's so important to the animation industry, the history of Western animation, and maybe animation on the whole. It's not a long video, and I think it's going to give you just a really good idea of who he is and why he's so important and why we're talking about him and why we're focusing on him this time around. Then after that, if you're really interested in hearing the man talk a little bit more from his own mouth and hearing his own perspective, then you know what? Go back and check out that opening video I showed you guys, which was the Comic-Con 2008 video. I'll put all the links in the YouTube card in the top right hand corner, and also check out the description below if you're listening on the podcast. All the details will be down there in the description. Alright, so let's continue with this introduction, and I'm going to start by getting a little bit personal and talking about my experience with Ralph Bakshi, because honestly, the first time I actually sat down and watched all of Bakshi's filmography, it was about, 15 years ago in 2002. My brother introduced me to him, and I was curious to see what this guy was making, especially after his first release, The Cat. In summary, I found most of his releases to be kind of trippy and amusing and very brash in his commentary. It was definitely interesting with the visuals and the character motions. Those were stand out. But I also found the social critique and raw early street films, I think the first three are really kind of gritty films, to be realistic but weird and kind of sensational, with a bit of shock factor in what Bakshi was doing with animation, particularly with his nudity, violence and overt sexual overtones. But I'll be lying if I didn't say that's what sold me on Bakshi. Seeing all that rawness, all that energy and all that other stuff I ain't seen from Warner Brothers or Disney, it really made him stand out to myself and most people. And outside of Japanese animation, a la anime, I hadn't seen a Western director or any Western studio tackle animation without any borders, just doing all sorts of topics, not holding back on the language, the dialogue, the violence, that's what made Bakshi's work special. And again, on a very superficial level, that's what drew me to him initially. And honestly, that's a lot of his legacy. Now, saying all that, guys, I'm going to keep it real with you. Even though I'm doing this little Ralph Bakshi retrospective, mini retrospective, I'm actually not a die-hard lover of his work. In fact, right now, off my memory, I feel a lot of his story writing gets lost over the animation experience, and his actual messages in his movies are very mixed, and I don't know if they come out exactly the way he wants them to. And the reception I've seen from the fan base, even the general public, has been very mixed, skewing to negative. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I understand why, being critical. So in saying that, I will freely and honestly admit the focus on Bakshi is more to do with respect for what he did to broaden the awareness of animation in its boundaries and not keep it in those walls of Disney and, the niceties and the child friendliness. I hate that. If you guys heard me speak about animation, I love it as a free and open medium to express ideas and creativity. And Ralph Bakshi's work really is a beacon of that ideal. But again, with the praise comes criticism. And I have a feeling when you watch the videos that I'm going to be putting through with my modern reviews, I might even come off more as a hater. But again, it's going to be an honest mini retrospective. So guys, I'm keeping an open mind, and I hope you guys do too, especially if you're Ralph Bakshi diehard fanboys. I don't know if you're going to enjoy this retrospective, but again, guys, I think it's important to be honest, especially when we're doing discussions, because for newbies, it's going to be interesting for you to listen to what we think when we're criticizing the movie or just giving our opinions on the director that is no longer really in the game, but has such respect from his peers and from the industry on a whole. And let's be honest, you don't have to love someone to actually respect them. And that's what me celebrating animation for a month or longer is all about. And Ralph Bakshi, I think he does deserve respect. And maybe I don't actually think he gets the respect he actually deserves. He inspired so much people. And, I'm kind of honored to actually do this for him. And this is one of the last things I was dying to do with Planet Tyro before my life got really hectic and busy. So yeah, that's my reason, that's my thought on it now. So anyway, truthfully, I don't think Bakshi was trying to be Aaron Sorkin or the Asimov of animation or be super intelligent or highbrow or highfalutin. I think honestly he was just trying to experiment with animation and show people that animation had a much more creative side to it. And it didn't need the borders or the barriers that was established by the big names like Disney and Warner Brothers and what have you. And to that point, he definitely made his mark, because as I always say, animation is not solely for children. And lastly, just to wrap up my first little blurb in this introduction, I do want to say, guys, if you've ever seen an interview of Ralph Bakshi, he is very, very, well, he speaks very, I don't want to say unfondly, he's very harsh about his opinion on the big studios of animation and how things were at the time. And everything I said about Ralph Bakshi, about his animation style, what he thinks about animation, he goes into so much detail. Again, I'll put links to many of his interviews down below. The Comic-Con one, there's a documentary about him where he speaks about it again. And honestly, man, it's one of the things that I really like about him, because we are very like-minded in that regard. Even me, just being a fan of animation, I really like his mindset, and I actually do wish more animators are more like him. Well, to be honest with you, today there are, Seth MacFarlane and the guys that do South Park, and those guys are more using animation in a broader sense. But again, it's always comedy that only really breaches the Western side of animation in different avenues. But Bakshi was more than just comedy. Well, actually, he was less about comedy and just more about experimentation in general. So anyway, I don't want to bore you guys too much with this introduction. Moving forward, again, I want you guys to know we're going to be doing solo videos, solo discussions on each movie. I'll probably put a list on the screen if you're on YouTube so you can see what we're going to tackle. And actually, my buddy, the Catface Killer, old boy, is going to be joining me on these discussions, and he is a Bakshi newbie. He really doesn't know anything about Ralph Bakshi, and it's going to be interesting to get that opposing opinion, that new element. And I know he's going to be probably even more critical than me because he's a no-nonsense kind of cat. And yeah, it's going to make the discussions more interesting. But I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit worried about some of the hate we might get for being critical. But guys, that never stopped us before. So I hope you guys are going to be open to hearing his thoughts as well as mine. And you know what, guys, before we wrap this up, I do want to say, have you listening right now, have you seen Ralph Bakshi's work? Do you know who he is? What's your favorite movie? What do you guys think we should do, or how, I just want to hear you guys' opinion before we get started. Let us know in the comments down below, whether you're listening on the podcast or on YouTube. Yeah, because, do you think this guy's a legend? Do you not know who he is? Or, do you guys not know what to expect? Let us know in the comments down below, because as always, it's an open discussion here on Planet Tyro. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time, as I said before. So I want to wrap this up by saying, again, because I don't have the time to do this retrospective in the way I want to, I did find other articles online of people doing really good write-ups on Ralph Bakshi's filmography, and I will say check them out. And I've got like 3 or 4 here, as well as a video list I'll put in the description. I'll put this on the screen now if you're on YouTube though. Check out, 366's Weird Film Directors Retrospective. This was pretty good. It was a good read. I'll say check that out in the description down below. Alfred Eker's retrospective on Ralph Bakshi is another good one. I like the way he described each and every movie and had a little twist on it. That was cool as well. And Bad Shakespeare, I like the way they laid it out on the website as well. So again, check out these 3. Links in the description down below. I know it's not video on YouTube, and again, there are some videos of some of my favorites. I'll put in the YouTube card in the top right hand corner, that I button, and down below. So guys, again, I'm not really happy that I don't have the time to attack this the way I really could if I had more time. So again, I want to point you out to other people. If you know anyone you think I should check out that knows about Ralph Bakshi, again, let us know in the comments down below. But I guess that's it for now. Again, everything will be in the link down below. As for the recordings, when they're going to come out, I can't say they'll be weekly because me and the Catface are so busy. And I do want him on every single video. And right now, there's 11 movies we're going to tackle. Again, I'll put it on the screen what we're going to talk about. So, stay tuned, stay with us. This is probably going to bleed into November because, our schedules need to line up. But, thanks for tuning in. As always, if you like our content, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to our project here, which is the Celebrate International Animation Day project, there's a playlist we made of everything we've done before. There's also an animation playlist. So if you're just interested in hearing us talk about other animated projects, American, Japanese, Chinese, what have you, we got so many videos, hundreds of videos actually. So if that tickles your fancy, check that out. But until then, I'm going to get the hell out of here. And hopefully we'll see you again on the Ralph Bakshi Retro #retrospective project. See you then.